good morning, sad to say so, but this is a unique continental strike-slip faulting on a lithospheric scale, and we have similar examples happen in Nepal, Kathmandu, and Kunlun fault in China. And these three examples are so-called mega earthquakes, magnitude 7.8, 9, and producing within 9 to 10 hours mega or large aftershocks like MW 7.6 and so on. So this is a divergent plate boundaries and huge fault lines affecting more than 3 or 4 plates, neighboring countries and so on. We have plates moving and next to each other, adjacent to relative to each other from one point to another one. So it's a displacement in a vertical axis. And so it transfers stress and strain and dislocation from one point to another one on large distances and causing large earthquakes like in San Andreas faults in United States or Kunlun fault or Altıntaş fault in China and so on. There are large examples in the world. And this is, as far as Anatolia or Turkey is concerned, this is the largest ever instrumentally recorded and damage to at least 10 or more cities and surrounding countries in Turkey since 1939 Erzincan earthquake. That was also 7.9 and 8 magnitude earthquake. So this is providing to the scientists, seismologists, geologists, a plentiful, useful, beautiful data sets. Of course, this is a scientific fantasy to get decent data from ground or from space geodesy to study it extensively. And probably you've seen the disaster aftermath, how extended damage is observed in the region, including Syria and so on. Maybe in the Sea of eastern part of Mediterranean Sea, in Iskandarian Bay and in Cyprus and Levantine Basin. There may be some ruptures under the sea or ocean basin as well. So that's another aspect for earthquake-induced tsunamis and others to come, all the way from Hatay to the south, to the Palmyras, to Lebanon, Palestine, up to Gulf of Aqaba in Israel. So left lateral Dead Sea fault zone is bound to give a birth to large earthquakes as big as about 7.5. So there's a lot of regions still under threat and danger. A surprising event for me because I have studied 24th of January 2020 earthquake and published that filled the gap between Hazar Lake and Sivrice, Elazığ and Doğanyol. It was 7.1. We knew that there was a serious amount of stress transferred to the Çelikan, Adıyaman and Kahramanmaraş. I was expecting to have an earthquakes in Malatya, Sürgü Fault, in the Çelikan area because I studied these earthquakes in last 35 years, but I was surprised to have at least 3 maybe independent fault branches moving as a domino style, one after another, along the East Anatolian fault zone. But I'm carefully choosing my words. This earthquake occurred, or series of earthquakes, around the East Anatolian fault zone, on the splay faults, on the segments, and the branches as the partition is going on. So each large earthquake, about 7, is an independent earthquake, although the main shock affected about 400 kilometer radius, and that can be still called a foreshock, aftershock, main shock, aftershock issues. But this is these earthquakes not occurred on the East Anatolian fault, but within the East Anatolian fault zone, and a newly born segment is guiding all the way from Gaziantep, Kilis, Hatay, Hassa to the Syrian one. So this is a branch of East Anatolian fault zone, not itself. Okay. So these are. Yes, I'm afraid, yes, for East Anatolian fault zone where the earthquake ended around Sürgü Fault, Göksun, Kahramanmaraş, Kozan, Adana, Osmani, Hatay area. There are places stresses transferred. There will be future earthquakes as high as magnitude 7 or above, but we cannot assume or suggest that huge stress is transferred to the North Anatolian Fault all the way to the Istanbul or beyond Istanbul to the Gulf of Saros in the northern Aegean Sea. It's a huge, over 1,500 kilometer long. This is certainly impossible. Within 500 kilometer radius from the epicenter of the Gaziantep Nurdağ earthquake, we can assume there are triggered, or there may be stress transfer earthquakes in the future, because we will have aftershocks at least a year or more. In 1999 Gölcük earthquakes, we had a magnitude 7.4, and then 3 months later we had a magnitude 7.2 in Russia, and that even series lasted over 8 months of aftershocks. This is a huge earthquake, 3 times larger than 99 earthquake, and as far as the seismic moments and the energy is concerned, this is devastating in the global scale. Of course, it's not as mega thrust earthquakes like in Banda Aceh, Sumatra, Tohoku in Japan, or Queen Charlotte Islands in Alaska, or Vancouver, or Chile in subduction zone of Peru. These are different stories. But on the continental scale, in the lithospheric scale, like in San Andreas Fault or Kunlun Fault in China, and analogies of North Anatolian Fault and East Anatolian Fault earthquakes are comparable. I will speak of my own calculations. I've been doing the inversion for seismological source parameters for this earthquake, and I calculated magnitude in Richter scale 7.98 for the current earthquake. And that's about 300 kilometer long and 50 kilometer in width, and the earthquake occurred at about 10 to 12 kilometer focal depth on the centroid beyond the surface, so it's a epicenter. So this is huge. When we compare to the 1999 Gölcük earthquake, that was about 143 kilometer fault rupture and 7.4 event, and this has much larger area as far as seismic moment is concerned, and I'm sorry to say so that this has been easy escape, so I would expect even more damage if it happened in a densely populated areas as far as the death toll is concerned. So in the Sea of Marmara region, within the Sea of Marmara branch to we do not have a single fault as large as 300 kilometers long to give a birth to such earthquake in Marmara region, but over there too we have earthquakes about 7.45, but not certainly above 7.7. So this is a good news, and the North Anatolia Fault goes within the sea, not going through the major populated areas in Istanbul and surrounding areas. But again, this makes it very difficult to tackle in the field, of course, search and rescue, a helping hand, food, shelter, and forming a life for those in the laymen in the streets, and to survive for the rest of their family, for the rest of their life. These are all humanitarian help, should be done. NGOs, government, central authorities are doing their best. But as far as the scientific aspect is concerned, there are bits that we are missing. For instance, we should have installed temporary seismic networks to record aftershocks for over a year or maybe 2 years, and to get the clear story. In fact, tonight I'm going to have a meeting with USGS NIS seismologists from Denver. I hope international scientific agencies can help us, but this should be done by AFAD or Kandilli or TÜBİTAK or Mineral Research Institute in MTA in Ankara. So there are bits that are still missing, and it's the rural areas, in mountainous areas, winter conditions hard and harsh, and so we have to well organized, but I am doing my best setting up international cooperation using space geodesy and data from NASA or ESA and so on. So these are maybe scientific fantasies, but we will learn a lot, and this will be probably the largest ever earthquake I will witness throughout in my lifetime in Turkey or else that I will be directly involved.
What news of northern Syria? How is the rescue effort going there?
Well, firstly, I cannot but stand in empathy with what's happening in Turkey because we as Syrian people are struggling with the same issue today. In Syria, we have over 1,800 victims, 2,400 injured, at least, with over 260 totally destroyed buildings. These buildings still hold inside of them families that are suffering. So there is a lack of equipment. There is a lack of healthcare equipment to treat the injured, but also vehicles that could be used for rescuing the innocent people. On top of the fact that it's very cold days, so people need, after being rescued, they need the tents, they need the food, the blankets, and everything. And on top of that, there is a need for actually the fuel to run the available vehicles that are being used to rescue the people. So the need is tremendous, and we need a tremendous effort to address the problem. Everybody's trying to volunteer. You have the best. We're very proud of having the White Helmets and Mulham team doing their work, and everybody's trying to volunteer their time and energy and power and everything they're doing to try to help to rescue one more human, one more cat, one more animal, anything you can find, because everything is destroyed in so many cities. It hits Idlib, Aleppo, Hama, Latakia, Tartus, major cities with a lot of people. As you know, the north of Syria is full of citizens who have to flee from their homes and be gathered in the north of Syria on the Turkish border. So what we need at this point is to be able to have open borders with Turkey in order to send the injured people, because there's no healthcare system that can function. We understand the pressure that Turkey is facing a lot, and we empathize a lot. But there's a lot of people who are injured and they need to be sent to medical facilities that are functioning. So hopefully we can get that done, and we can get some help and some aid coming from outside of the country, because that's one of the challenges. Most of the aid that we are receiving on the ground, is from the Syrian people or the Syrian community abroad, sending donations and so on. So we hope to have the international attention both to Turkey and Syria, because every soul is an important soul. If we can save a person, it's the most joy we can achieve at this point.